this nothing is very frightening to the ego, to the me, for the fictitious self, because the me thinks that this nothing means death. And in one sense it is death. But death is sort of silly because, you know, when you go to sleep, you die. You don't sit around thinking about yourself. So you die when you go to sleep every night. You die constantly because you walk down the sidewalk and you forget to be self-obsessed for a moment. You know? You look at the tree, you look at the ground, you look at your toe. You know, you just moments of gaps where you forget yourself. You know, it's like the passing of a thought more than the death of something solid and fundamental. But since we are so conditioned to view ourselves through our self-image, that self-image is very frightened of a self that has no image. It sees that as some sort of terrible extinction. I call it the dirty little secret of humanity. The void within. You know, that's the secret, is the void that's within. That's what all this human nonsense is about. That's what all this, everybody treading on the top of the water, feverishly trying to not have to pay attention, that when I look inside, I'm not there. I'm not there. That's what all this nonsense is about. When I look inside, I'm not there. And so we try to fill it up with self-concepts, ideas about ourselves. We would rather think of ourselves as an absolutely rotten, terrible character than to look into that nothingness. Right? We'd rather be the victimizer of all humanity than to look into that. We'd rather try to fill that emptiness with all sorts of experiences, people, drugs, spiritual experiences, throw anything into the void so that it's not the void. See, anything will do. Greed, hate, and envy, as we Buddhists like to say. The normal amount of greed, hate, and envy. Yeah, the proper mix. Yeah, the standard amount. But the funny thing is that when we actually turn and bring this awakeness upon itself, when we bring and turn it on itself for the first time, only then, when we look directly within and be still and be quiet, we find that it's not so frightening at all. It's not frightening at all. It's not frightening to be no thing. It's not frightening to be no body. Because when you're no thing and no body, then you're pure spirit. You're pure awakeness. Not somebody who's awake, not me who's awake, not somebody who is enlightened. Awakeness is awake. Awareness is aware. Enlightenment is enlightened. Consciousness is conscious. There is no me or you behind it. The me or you that we think is behind it is just a thought. That's why when people do self-inquiry, I like to say, everybody gets the answer the first time they ask the question. Except everybody throws the answer away. When I ask people, okay, just look inside and ask yourself, who am I? And then a lot of times the first thing I see is their eyes start to roll around. Which means they're thinking, right? They're at least searching for an answer. You know? No, it's not up there. You know? That's yesterday's news, you know? It's not down there either. Why do we look when we say, who am I? Why do we go searching? There's only one reason we search. If I was to ask you, are you sitting in a room right now? How long do you have to search? You know, don't you? It's self-evident. You don't need any guru to tell you you're sitting in a room, right? You know. So when you say, who am I? We just do it. We just look, who am I? And your mind says, I don't know. Why does the mind say, I don't know? Because it didn't find anything. It didn't find what it was looking for. So many times we move away from that, as if that's the wrong answer. Because when we're in school, we're all taught, not knowing, that's not right. You gotta know, you'll flunk the test, you'll be looked down upon. To not know, no, you can't do that. So without even knowing it, in spiritual inquiry, we take this same attitude and think, because I don't come up with an answer, I failed. I better think about it. But actually we did come up with that answer. When we look inside and don't find ourselves to be something, somebody, some gender, when we look inside and see that just behind our mind, we're not somebody's son or daughter or mother or father, all those roles take place. But there's something more primary to all these definitions. There's not a good somebody or a bad somebody. There's something behind that. That's what's behind it. See? It makes all sorts of noises. That's right. That's right. That's my Dharma talk there. Yes. Right out of that nothing. That is the nothing, right? That's the baby's cry. That's what's looking out from your eyes, my eyes. That same no bodiness, no thing. And in the willingness to stop right there, just stop, and not try to think about it, not try to figure it out, not try to get a better, bigger experience, but just stop right there. And then you discover that nothing isn't so much so nothing after all. That nothing is everything. It's the fullest, richest nothing we ever bump into. The nothingness of our own being. The nobodiness. That paradoxically ends up to be the most beautiful thing we could ever discover about ourselves. The freedom from being somebody. Just the willingness to surrender for just a moment. And then, that's step one. That's awakening. If you get that, that's awakening. If that no-bodiness wakes up, that's awakening. If that spirit wakes up, that's awakening. If it stays asleep and you go, what? That's no big deal. Just stay there. Don't think about it. Don't try to make anything happen. Just stay there. And then we got this little business of living this life. It's like I like to say, that's where the spiritual rubber hits the road. Right? That's where we see just how awake this awakeness is, and when we go into relationship. It's one thing to be nobody when you're totally supported in being nobody. It's another thing to be nobody when you're totally encouraged constantly to be somebody. And especially when that nobody has to go into relationship. Maybe with somebody that doesn't agree with it. This is when spirituality gets very real. This is actually when the fire of truth starts to really happen. You start to find yourself in a fire.